Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. This is HD's StarCraft, and I'm back for another Heart of the Swarm broadcast. And we're going to be doing another game here on Newkirk City. I thought today we'd go ahead and look at two fresh new faces on the StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm platform. And in the bottom right-hand corner, allow me to go ahead and introduce the purple Zerg player from Team FX Opens Esports. His name is JimRising, and he is actually a 22-year-old player from Mexico. So obviously going to be interesting to see how he competes here against his opponent, who is the yellow Terran player in the bottom left-hand corner, and he is from Team Dust, and his name is Semper, and he is a 16-year-old player from Canada. Now, both of these players are grandmasters. They've had several accounts in grandmasters in the top 200, and obviously very, very talented players. But you know, while both of these players are from North America / America, they're not actually from the United States. So we have a Canada versus Mexico battle here, and these two players are pretty talented. Like I said, they've been top 200 in grandmasters. And I'm interested to see how this Terran versus Zerg is going to go down. I'm told that this replay is very, very good. So really looking forward to it. And while the game just starts to get heated up, if you guys want to see more videos, feel free to subscribe. I'm always coming out with new StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm, and probably will be doing... I want to do some Wings of Liberty content. I haven't had a chance to yet, but I will be doing it soon, hopefully. And if you guys want to check it out, I'm at youtube.com/HDStarcraft, as well as Facebook and Twitter. And obviously, if you guys want to send me any cool replays, high-level Heart of the Swarm games, I am accepting that, or links to any of these replays as well. You guys can just send it to me at HDreplays@gmail.com. Now, with the introductions out of the way, I'm interested to see what kind of... Now, both of these players obviously play in certainly different regions. Canada and America, North America play... Canada and the United States play in North America, and Mexico, but I don't think they play in the North American region. I think they play in the Central American region. Correct me if I'm wrong, but usually when you have players coming from different regions, you might see different play styles a little bit, because the evolution on the different servers tends to occur, you know, at different rates and different strategies and whatnot. So really want to see how this is going to go down here. We do have a Reaper coming out. Terrans love the Reapers now, and even though in the replays I've been casting, we haven't been seeing Reaper play too much, I can promise you guys that the Reapers have kind of had this new resurgence, and they're becoming really, really popular. You see them used almost all the time in openings now for Terran players. If they want to be aggressive, it's really their unit that they can rely on. And it's cool because Blizzard, like I said before, has been trying to make the game more aggressive in the opening minutes instead of, you know, the macro-based play that we typically see in Wings of Liberty. So they've given all the races aggressive options here, and this is one of them, the Reaper coming out from the Canadian player Semper. And now this Reaper is going to be making its way over to the Zerg Natural. There are a couple of Zerglings here, but a Reaper by itself should be able to handle the drone, and it can hop up and down the cliff as well. So unlikely here that JimRising is going to be able to do much about this for now. Of course, that's going to give a full scout for Semper, and then finally the Queen is able to push the Reaper away. Now the scout is crucial because Semper actually saw the gas coming up at the main base, and from that he can deduce that most likely there is going to be Zergling speed coming out. And actually, wow, we even have the lair coming really quickly here from JimRising. That is really interesting. Usually you don't see the lair coming up that early on in Zerg versus Terran. This is almost a 5-minute, and I want to say like 15-second, maybe 10-second lair. And you know, usually the thing is, the Zerg player will pull off gas after the speed has been researched if they want to go for quick speed. Now the question is, did Semper, was he able to scout the spawning pool? It looks like he did see the pool, and was he able to notice that the pool was actually kind of vibrating and shaking? Because if you see that and then you see the Zerg continuing to mine gas, it can only mean one of two things. Either they're continuing to mine gas to go for lair, or they just totally forgot about it and they're mining gas, or I guess they're mining gas to go for a Baneling bust. You know, one of those options are possible. And so is Semper aware of that possibility here as he's going for Starport? Interesting. It looks like he wants to go for Widowmine dropping. It seems to be the case here because he's got a barracks, he's got a factory, and he was researching concussive shells, but he ended up canceling it. So I'm not actually sure what Semper's plan here is. Is he going to go for bio? Is he going to go for mech? And what's the reasoning for the early starport? Well, obviously he's going to make a medevac, and I think he's going to go for drop play here, but what is he going to drop? Is he going to drop Widow Mines, or is he going to drop Bio? And I think he's going to go for Widow Mines. Oh, those mines just actually detonated on a couple of Zerglings that found themselves at the front ramp. But I do believe he is going to go for Widow Mine play here, as he's got a medevac coming out, or perhaps he's just going to... Well, maybe he's just going to wait and get a bunch of bio units, get some early medevacs out. I'm not too sure. We'll see. He's loading. He could load up some bio at any moment here, and there we go. He's loaded up a couple of Widow Mines, so that's what I thought he was going to do. I was a little confused as to why he was hesitating. Maybe just occupied with something else at the moment. But here comes that medevac. And interesting here, we actually have a Spire on the production tab from JimRising, so that is why he rushed the early layer. Now, does he have the other gases mining? Because if you go for the quick Spire, you need at least 4 gases to make any significant amount of Mutalisks, and he does indeed have 4 gases going. He's actually saved up a significant amount of resources here. Now, this medevac was seen by the Overlord, I believe, so Zergling's already here, and the Widow Mines, I don't think they're going to be able to do much damage, because remember, without the Drilling Claws upgrade, they take 3 seconds to burrow, but the medevac sees the Spire, which, I mean, I think that's totally worth it. For even though the medevac won't get any damage done, essentially it's a bit of an expensive delayed scout, but so worth it, because now the Terran player, Semper, can throw up a bunch of missile turrets, and I hope he's got Stimpack almost finished. Yeah, he's got Stimpack on the way, so it's about a minute away from finishing. He'll need Stimpack here in order to fend off these Mutalisks, but if he can get enough missile turrets up, then it won't necessitate the requirement of Stimpack necessarily, but nevertheless, he'll need to use a combination of both here, and of course he has Widow Mines as well. He needs to burrow the mines down. A couple of mines in the proper position can just absolutely shut down this Mutalisk play. Now, the Mutalisks are going to try to attack this command center, doing a little bit of superficial damage here. Maybe going to go for the tech lab. Oh, that'd be absolutely crucial, but it looks like the tech lab is well protected by the Marines nearby, and now the Mutalisks trying to find a place where they can do a little bit of damage here. A great missile turret placement so far from Semper. There is a slight chink in the armor here below the natural expansion. We're seeing a very Brood War-esque style of play here from JimRising. The rush to Mutalisks, almost Jaedong-esque in ZVT, and it seems to be doing quite a bit of damage already. Let's see how many workers have been killed. 5. Let's see if he can eke out any more damage. Meanwhile, Semper actually has a couple of Widow Mines here, but unfortunately, the Widow Mines were not close enough to the trajectory of the Mutalisks that were escaping behind the natural expansion, and luckily, really, for JimRising that he didn't lose his clump of mutas there. He is going to be able to pick off a medevac as well, and he's now got flyer attacks level 1 on the way, so he's upgrading that Mutalisk clump. And this is interesting. We're seeing a Zerg player who's kind of a throwback Zerg trying to make use of early quick Mutalisks, and this is, like I said before, very Brood War style of play. Can he actually get any damage done? Ouch, that's the problem though. Every time you run in there, you've got to be wary of those Widow Mines, and now the Marines have Stimpack as well, so I don't think this Mutalisk playstyle is going to be able to do too much more damage. Of course, the nice thing in Heart of the Storm is they do regenerate very quickly now, but I definitely feel like JimRising will need to supplement these Mutalisks with the ground army, preferably Banelings, and we do have centrifugal hooks on the way. Now, Semper has got to be a little careful here. There are still Mutalisks that are flying around the place. He's got most of his army at the 3rd. He doesn't have his army back at home to protect, and he should have left some Widow Mines back here, because these Mutalisks now are going to have a heyday inside the main base. One Widow Mine is coming back, but it is easily seen by those mutas, and they will be able to make their escape no problem. And of course, that is going to require that Semper throw down more than 1 or 2 missile turrets, and probably get a couple of Widow Mines inside of every mineral field as well. I always feel like that's a good way to deter Mutalisk threat. And let's see here, the Bio actually out of position. We'll have to get inside the medevacs. That is a risk though, as the Mutalisks can pick them off, but the medevacs, of course, showcasing their enormous speed. And wow, that was a beautiful trap play by Semper. I don't know if it was by coincidence or intentional, but essentially he loaded up all of his forces inside the medevac, and it was almost like a bait. Come and get me if you want. And then as the Mutalisks were just about to kill a medevac full of biological forces, he boosted, and he was able to just spread his army out, and a Widow Mine was kind of the icing on the cake. JimRising there taking a lot more damage than I think he was comfortable with, and you can see units lost here, resources pretty close, that last play by the Terran player Semper kind of evening up the odds a little bit against JimRising after the Mutalisk damage that has been done in this game. We do have a sensor tower coming up here. That's always nice. You can get a little bit of extra vision for that third expansion. JimRising also has a fourth expansion coming up, which what do you expect from a Zerg player? I think it's a little bit later than you would imagine. And we'll see if that ends up biting him in the butt later on. Oh god, he's got to be careful here. These Mutalisks were not paying attention. Just a little bit too lax, a little too lazy. And there's so many Marines here, more Marines stimming up. And JimRising's Mutalisk squad has pretty much been countered now. I don't agree with making any more Mutalisks at this stage of the game. And you can see on the production tab, he has foregone Mutalisk production. But he does have a nice sizable Baneling army. And they are +1 upgraded with 2-2 on the way. 2-2 also on the way for the Terran infantry. Interestingly, Combat Shields has not been finished yet, but it is about to finish up momentarily. And look at this biomech-infused army on the way right now. Widowmines, Marines, Marauders. We saw another Terran player in a former cast of mine use bio with Hellbats, but this is an interesting twist here. Now, the Widowmines are gonna burrow down, and oh my god, this entire Zerg army runs right by, and the Mutalisks bait the Widowmine Sentinel missiles, and now the Zerglings and Banelings are gonna be able to absolutely crush the bio army. Medivacs using booster, but they didn't actually save any of the Marines. Finally, a last-ditch effort right there to save 4 Marines at the cost of many, many brothers, and now the Marines will run back home. Unfortunately for them, they are the only survivors. And that battle, I mean, literally it was a game of inches. If it had just been a second earlier in regards to the Widowmines burrowing down, I think we would have seen that entire Zergling Baneling army get eradicated by 6 or so Widowmines. And luckily for JimRising, he was very smart about that maneuver. He sent the Zerglings and Banelings in. They were still in the radius of the mines, and he sent the Mutalisks in. I think the Mutalisks have a higher threat priority, and so the Sentinel missiles went for the Mutas, which at this point in the game, I mean, they're really, yes, they're worth more, obviously, than Zerglings and Banelings, but in that particular battle, the Mutalisks are not worth as much because you need to acquire an open space for the Zerglings and Banelings to get in melee range, and so that battle went very well for the Zerg player, but he's still behind in supply, interestingly. Here comes another battle. This one won't go so well for him, though, as the mines will detonate. Oh, my goodness. And most of the Zerg infantry gets eradicated, but you can see that Semper doesn't actually have all that many forces here. I think he was a little bit gung-ho about pushing out. Didn't quite have a maxed out Terran army. Maybe just trying to set up a forward position, but you can see there that ended up the initiative. The early initiative ended up hurting him more than helping him, and so he has to fall back once again. Workers killed this game fairly low, 7-1. Hive is finally finishing up for JimRising, a pretty delayed Hive there, but you know, there's been a lot of action this game, and of course he did go for early Mutalisks, so it is hard to tech up to tier 3 when you invest about 1,500 of your gas at stage 2. And we do have another hatchery coming at the top right hand side, so it is actually 4 bases right now for the Terran player compared to 5 bases for the Zerg. And so it is a pretty close game as of right now. I would say that maybe JimRising is slightly behind because he doesn't really have as much of a bank as you would hope to see from a maxed out Zerg at this point. But right now we do have a couple of attacks going on as Mutalisks are going to go for the natural. Meanwhile, the Terran player, Semper, is setting up a bit of a minefield in front of the pocket expansion. And this is a little bit of trouble for the Zerg player. He's got to pick his battles wisely here. Doesn't want to send his entire ground army in because of the threat of the Widowmine, so he's trying to clear the minefield by single Zerglings. Meanwhile, also trying to control this Mutalisk pack out here against the Marines on the ground. 2-2 Marines are the current upgrades, as 3-3 is about to get halfway done. Meanwhile, the Zerg army actually moving in here says, I don't care about the minefield. It's going to go right in for the Marines and Marauders. And Semper is, oh my god, he's going to get overrun here. Doesn't have the proper positioning. And this is I think this is a bit of the problem with going Widowmines is you do forego, oh my god, that was beautiful right there. And a Zerg graveyard. I was just about to say, the problem with going Widowmines is you kind of forgo having siege tanks, and siege tanks in this position when he was falling back would have been beautiful. But hey, the beauty of Widowmines is you can do this with them, and you can't do this with siege tanks. And oh man, not as I guess not as devastating as it could have been because it hit the Zerglings and not the drones. But that was a beautiful play by JimRising to pull his Zerglings back here and pull the threat of the Sentinel missile away from the more fragile drone line. So Very nice play right there by the Zerg, quick thinking on his feet. But yeah, it is a bit of a trade-off right now for the Terran player. When you go Biomech in Heart of the Swarm, you've gotta make a balanced decision between, do I go Siege Tanks or do I go Widow Mines? Or do I go Hellbats? And we can kind of see that Terran players have the option of really mixing and matching, and it makes for a different gameplay style depending on, you know, what you see. Finally, Concussive Shells is about to finish up here, and I think the reason for that is Semper is now expecting to see Ultralisks at tier 3. Does JimRising have Ultralisk on the way? In fact, he does have an Ultralisk Cavern, so I'm assuming that that was scanned by Semper as he's now moving in for yet another blow. He does drop the medevac army down here behind the fifth expansion, and meanwhile on this attack over here at the pocket, he does have his Widow Mines fungal growth. That is a pretty scary Zerg army though, and JimRising is now going to move in. The Widow Mines are the biggest threat. He does clear the minefield without loot. Oh, actually that was pretty devastating. It's tough to say one way or another, but I do believe that because Semper lost most of his Widow Mines, he will not be able to continue the forward progress. Meanwhile though, he does have a backside attack that was able to kill off the hatchery at the 1 o'clock position, and it looks like now the force is finally cleaned up, but that medevac ends up paying for itself in dividends because it kills off a hatchery, and at the same time Semper is able to establish an expansion of his own, though he has to be careful here. Gonna use the neutral building here to help cut off the enemy forces from advancing. And right now, I think Semper is thinking, if I can push in and take out the pocket expansion, this game is probably going to be mine. JimRising has got to be feeling the pressure right now as well, because he lost an expansion. He doesn't necessarily have the scary tier 3 army that he needs right now. He needs, I feel like, Broodlords. I don't know about Ultras, because Widow Mines are scary effective against Ultras. But we'll see how this plays out. JimRising now moving over to the bottom left-hand side is going to be able to cut off the Terran forces, and some of them getting saved by the medevac, but most of them going down right there. A very high action game right now. Let's take a look at some of these tabs. Units lost 17k, 16k. Some changelings coming in to mix in with the army. Unfortunately, changelings do not detonate Widow Mines unless they're in their original form, not in their disguised form. So unfortunate right there for JimRising. He's gonna move in right now. He's got to be careful. Wow, he spread out his forces very nicely there and mitigated the damage of the AoE. Now gonna give chase, and those medevacs have got to pick up these forces and get the hell out of there. But doesn't look like Semper is really paying, well, he is paying attention, but I think he just decided not to do so. I wonder why, because he used the medevac boost effect, and I think when you're under the effect of the boost, that's the best time to get the hell out of there, because Mutalisk cannot keep up. But now he gives up some territory to the Zerg player JimRising, but Semper's not done yet. This Canadian player is applying pressure now on the Zerg. He is going to be able to take out the hatchery once again, and that requires the complete retreat of the Zerg army. And really, that's a beautiful way of explaining how, well, 4 battlecruisers are about to finish. I did not notice that, so thank you, Dust.Semper, for pointing that out. But I was going to say that's a beautiful way to showcase how a good attack can be your best defense. And Semper, by attacking this hatchery, essentially saved his front door, because that entire Zerg army was about to barrel down. I don't know whether it was going to be at the 5th or at the pocket, but he bought himself some crucial time, and now he's got 4 battle cruisers on the field. And this is the beauty of Heart of the Storm late game. You see such a great variety of units being brought onto the playing field, and the Battlecruiser Raven combo with the Sky Terran is so fun to watch. We're going to be watching, I think, some Ravens shooting out secret missiles and some Yamato cannons shortly. JimRising though wants to end the game now before the Battlecruiser fleet gets too large, and I don't necessarily disagree with that decision, but I don't know about attacking into this section here. It does look like he has a lot of forces though. Will he be able to get his infestors up close to get a fungal growth down? No, most of the infestors getting blown up by the battlecruisers. Very nice play right there by Semper to take out the threat of the infestors before they could get next to the bio. And now there's only a couple of biological forces remaining, but it should be enough to push away JimRising's army. I think that the Zerg player will probably have to pull back here. Doesn't have enough forces to continue this attack, and that is the remainders of the battle of the Ultralisk, excuse me. army. So what a battle right there. Absolutely devastating to both players' armies. 27k, 29k. And look at this, we have a little bit of a crackling invasion over to the 5th expansion, but there's a planetary fortress here, and even cracklings, yes, they can do a lot of damage. They can take down a building this fortified surprisingly quickly, but with the SCVs nearby ready to repair, I don't know if that's actually going to play out as JimRising wants it to. Now, he does have a very large Corruptor army coming out. Unfortunately for him, his upgrades are only at 0-1 for the air. He needs to get more upgrades. He's got a Missile 2 on the way, but the battlecruisers are already at 2-2, and I don't know how this is going to play out for Semper. He does shoot out a Raven Seeker missile, and he spreads out. JimRising spreads out his Corruptors to try to mitigate damage. Not a bad job right there. He is going to move in with his Corruptors now, and that should be enough Corruptors to take out the battlecruiser fleet. Beautiful play by JimRising, and he moves in and eradicates the Sky Terran army before he could get up to a critical mass. But at the same time, we have another medevac drop going up at the 5th Zerg expansion, and no forces nearby, unfortunately, as most of them are occupied with the assault on the Terran Pocket expansion. Now, the funny thing here is most of the army is comprised of Corruptors. The only actual real damage being done on the ground is in the form of these cracklings, and they actually, they did a pretty good job, but they've run out now, and they are down. In the meantime, Semper, able to take out one of the expansions, is now moving his way over to the right-hand 2 o'clock expansion, but so many cracklings are here, and one lifeboat gets filled up, the other one partially, and it looks like these 2 medevacs are going to be able to get out of there and maybe go for another potential drop. Now, what is going to be interesting is how Semper counters this mass crackling Corruptor army. Will he continue to go for the battlecruisers? I don't think that's the right decision, because the thing about battlecruisers is, for Terran, for going Sky Terran, you need to get a critical mass, and you need to hold on to that critical mass. If at any point your battlecruiser fleet is defeated, then you have to consider making a switch, because if your battlecruiser fleet is defeated, that means you probably lost to, a lot of Corruptors. So making battlecruisers now is an unwise idea, and rightfully so. He switched his production back down into the earlier stage of this game, but he is supplementing with Ravens, which I think is a good idea because of the secret missiles, because of the PDDs. If Semper can regain air control here, he can switch right back down, right back up into battlecruisers, but that is a big if. There's so many Corruptors and Zerglings now moving into the expansion down here at the 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock position. That's a lot of cracklings, and I don't know if Semper is going to be able to defend this. He does have Widow Mines. He needs to burrow those down, and a missed opportunity right there, unfortunately. Not sure if his Widow Mines have drilling claws, but that could have been a game-changing upgrade right there. Unfortunately for Semper, he didn't have it. He is going to go into the fight here. His stim just wore off. He's forced his stim around 2, and that means his forces are pretty weak here. He is able to take out the ground threats, however, and now JimRising has to consider going into Broodlords. It's kind of the game, the rock, paper, scissors we're seeing here at Tier 3. It's really, really fun to watch, but as you can see, Semper switching back down into an earlier production combination of units is going to force JimRising to consider making his Corruptors into Broodlords. And if these Corruptors go into Broodlords, then guess what? The Terran player can then consider switching into battlecruisers once again. So it is kind of a really interesting metagame that's involved here, and a lot of mental, game going on as well. Both players are trying to out-level each other. So it is a very, very interesting battle going on at this moment in the game. Well, let's take a look at some of these tabs here. 79 to 67. The Terran player obviously booming due to the effect of mules. Units lost very, very close. And it is essentially an identically close game right now. Maybe the Terran player holding a slight lead because he does have a little bit more resources saved up. But look at the Ultralists now roaming the field. They have been brought back from extinction, and we'll see if these Ultras will be able to cleave apart this Terran Bio army. Ultras are very good at doing just that. It looks like most of the army, though, going to the top right to once again a medevac army killing off another hatchery, it seems like. And now another hatchery at the pocket expansion going down. And Semper is in a brilliant position here. Oh my god, the Raven Seeker missiles, going off and taking out a bunch of Corruptors, doing a lot of damage here. Ultras are still alive on the ground, however, cleaving apart the Terran biological forces. And now there's only a a handful of Marauders alive, and a Fungal Growth should finish them off. So it's unclear who won that fight. Perhaps if you look at it from an economical standpoint, that Semper was, because he was able to take out, I believe, 2 expansions. I believe there was an expansion here, and he was certainly able to take out an expansion here. So the damage here is going to multiply throughout this game, and exactly what Dust.Semper has said, you know, the Terran player right now has a massive bank. Our Mexican Zerg here will need to find a way to get some money and infuse his army, because he's falling down in supply right now. He's falling down in bases, and his army is also quite lackluster as well. So this game right now not looking good for JimRising. We'll see if Semper will be able to close it out here momentarily. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 expansions for a Terran player. Almost a ridiculous, a ludicrous amount of hatchery of the command centers. In terms of hatcheries, JimRising's only got 4. So it is quite bleak right now. We'll see what happens. We can see a couple of Widow Mines and Biological Forces here preparing to make another concerted effort to strike the Zerg player. One medevac fleet is going to go to the top side, and those Widow Mines are burrowed down in the perfect position, going to detonate and do tons of damage to these Ultralisks. And unlikely, I don't know, actually, JimRising getting in melee range, and there's more Widow Mines he has to clear through, though, and ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Every time those mines detonate, they just do enormous globs of damage to these Ultras. And finally, one Ultra sent to take out the minefield. But that is going to be it. GG, well played, calls JimRising. And Dust.Semper is your victor, ladies and gentlemen. A very, very, very nice Zerg versus Terran right there. 36 minutes long. And a beautiful, beautiful game. Hope you guys enjoyed this cast. Once again, this is HD StarCraft. And, of course, Heart of the Storm, guys, is less than 2 weeks away. So get ready, guys, because the game of the new... I guess the new year is coming out in a couple of weeks. So hopefully you guys are ready to go. I'm definitely ready to go. I'll see you guys in the next cast. And this is HD signing out.